We're joined today by Ed O'Brien, who's recording under the name EOB. The new album Earth is coming out April 17th on Capitol. A founding member of Radiohead, Ed has spent 35 years coaxing new sounds out of his guitar, always in service to the song. Thanks so much for joining us today on The Bridge, Ed.
My pleasure, John. Absolute pleasure.
35 years of Radiohead.
Sounds a long time, right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But it is also amazing that 35 years in, now you're releasing your first solo album.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, right? I have had a couple of sleepless nights going, why now?
The thing about it is, I feel like this album is more than just an album, though, right? I mean, it's sort of... It's your life story, and it kind of starts when, and boy, did I relate to this. You know, you're young, you're in school, and you're not particularly happy, but you found yourself in that band.
Yeah. You know, music, whatever it is, you find that thing that makes you find your purpose on this planet, right? And you lock in on that, and that becomes the most important thing. And I was really blessed that, for whatever reason, music was my purpose. So yeah, it's been an extraordinary life, right?
But the thing that I think is super interesting is that you found that, you knew you'd found that, but you also kind of assumed that, especially with the kind of success that you had with Radiohead and the quality of the music that you were creating, that would equal happiness.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, it's that classic thing. You grow up and there's a hole in your life, and, you know, you try and fill that hole, that lacking with. So I thought two things. I thought if I had a beautiful girlfriend, stroke wife, and I was in this great band, then all the darkness would disappear. And what I found, OK Computer comes out, and we're riding the crest of this wave, and all these things we dreamed about were happening. And I was more unhappy, and I was depressed. I've been depressed, and I was more depressed, and it was more acute than ever before. And it's a well-trodden route. You don't rely on external things, and that's when you have to look internally, and that's when you have to do the healing. That's when you have to do the work. And a lot of that stuff, you know, it comes from your childhood. It comes from maybe you were born with some of this stuff. It's, you know, ancestral even. It's that kind of realization that you have to do a lot of work, and I've done a lot of work.
There's also a bit of, I don't know what word you want to put on it, fate or kismet or whatever it is, karma. You stumbled across a compilation of Brazilian music that sort of changed things.
Yeah.
Really, the course of your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, as you get older, the way that I see life is I don't see these things as coincidences. I see them as gifts that happen, and I've had so many coincidences, and I've had so many extraordinary situations in life that what I'm interested in actually in life is the stuff that we see, but also the stuff that we can't see, the bigger picture. And for want of a better word, that could be spirituality. But anyway, I came across, at the heights of my depression, I got this compilation CD, Red Hot and Bossa, and it came out in like 96. And I put it on and I played it, and this music was exactly what I needed to hear. And it reduced me to tears, but there was something so beautiful, so utterly, what's the word? So, it just elevated me. And that's when I became really intrigued about Brazil. I knew about Brazil because of its soccer. I mean, I'm a big soccer fan, love soccer. And Brazil has won it more than any other country in the world. And the way they played it has been revolutionary. So we started going to Brazil. My girlfriend at the time became my wife. We started traveling and going to Brazil, and we had the most extraordinary experiences out there, which led to us, when the kids were born, when they were a few years old, back in 2012, we went and lived out there for about 7 or 8 months. And that's when the whole process of the album started.
And of course, the album that we're talking about is Earth. It is the new project from EOB, which is Ed O'Brien, who we're speaking with. It's out April 17th on Capitol. I think one of the things about this that is so striking to me is that you actually gave the band 5 years notice that you were going to do that.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think because the way that bands are, the album cycles and stuff like that, we just literally come out within rainbows. And everybody was on a high and everyone was feeling good. And I was just like, okay, this is a good time to say, in 5 years' time, I'm going to come out, I'm taking a year out. And I said to them, listen, if you want to carry on and make a record and stuff like that, you've got to do that. Because I don't want to upset the flow or anything. Because if you're in the flow of music, and I can slot back in if you want me to or whatever. But I have to have an extraordinary experience with my family. And I wanted to be fair. I didn't want to say at the last minute. I want to say, like, 5 years' time, this is what we're going to do. So it felt like the fair thing to do. Give them notice.
Always.
Our guest today is Ed O'Brien with the new album Earth, out April 17th. When you went to Brazil, you basically, you think, okay, guy from Radiohead, all the resources to do whatever he wants to do. You kind of moved out into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Almost off the grid.
Yeah, totally. That's my natural instinct. It was really rural. It was on the edge of the rainforest. We're living on the edge of a farm. There's no mobile signal. There was Wi-Fi about 15 minutes down the track. And it was great because life was reduced to its core constituencies, which are family, music, and food. These busy lives that we all lead, sometimes we need to get away from that and be in nature and remember, for me, it was reconnecting, trying to reconnect with what it means to be a human being on this planet, rather than getting sort of embroiled with all the, I need to get this, I need to do that, I need to achieve this, I need to do that. It's just like, hang on a sec, whoa. This isn't a race. What am I doing here? What's the purpose? If I'm so stressed and I'm so busy, it was just pulling back and it was going, okay. And it was the greatest perspective gainer. I suddenly was like, we got into all, being a successful musician and had the house in France and all this stuff and all this crap. And basically we got back from Brazil and we just sold it all because we were living in this tiny house and we were happier than we'd ever been. And we're like, we don't need all this stuff. And it was an amazing luxury to have, right? But for me, it was just, I don't want to be worried about having to pay the builders down in France and whether they got, all I want to do is be with my family and make music. And so it was really a case of realizing what the important things in your life were. And then when we came back, we did a big sort of clear out of our lives, and it was brilliant for that.
So having said all of that, the plan for you to make music when you went down there, and this was partly at Tom's encouragement, you carried down all kinds of laptops and electronics, and you were going to make electronic music. And it's almost like your experience rejected that path like a bad organ.
Yeah, it was so funny because after about 6 weeks of making, and I've got all these electronic bits of music, and I wasn't feeling anything. I was like, it's all right. But you need to get, when you're in the creative process, you need to get something back. You need to be excited by it. But I wasn't excited. I gave it a good go. I gave it 6 weeks, and then I was just like. And then the truth, my mantra, the thing that I discovered on the whole record is like, I've discovered this very powerful, what's your truth? What do you really feel? Now, that's quite a hard thing to come to, actually, when you really, really go there, because we're very good at kidding ourselves, right? Oh, yeah, this makes me feel good. I should be doing this. No, what do you actually feel? And what I actually felt at that time was like, well, you see here this little old Martin acoustic guitar that I've got here. That's what I really want to do. And pick it up. And why was the reason I didn't initially? Because I thought that electronic music is the frontier of music, if you like. That's where the new sounds, that's where all this stuff is happening. And that's where I should be. But actually, that was my head saying I should be there. My heart was saying, pick up that guitar. And so for me, it's been a great lesson in like following my intuition, following my heart, going, this might not make sense, but this is what I want, and this makes me feel good. And so that's basically what I've discovered in the whole process of the record.
Our guest today is Ed O'Brien, EOB, and of course Ed from Radiohead, but now doing his first solo project, Earth, out April 17th on Capitol. While you were in Brazil, there were a couple of signature moments that went sort of beyond the simplicity of the life that you built by the lake and the waterfall. And one of them was seeing a healer.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a healer years and years before, and that had a profound effect on my life. Yeah, that was huge.
And then the other one is something that I think everybody can understand pretty easily. You went to Carnival.
Yeah, within Brazilian life, going to see a healer and going to Carnival, they're almost like the same thing. That's not too dissimilar. It's very accepted. And Carnival was just, extraordinary. It is the greatest show on earth, and it's this huge outpouring of rhythm, music, light, dance, love. It's such a classically emotionally Brazilian event, and I just found the whole thing completely intoxicating, mesmeric. It was very similar to going to a great rave. I was left with that same kind of feeling, and in fact it almost felt better than that because it was so human. It was like all the music was rhythmic, but there are no machines. It's all human. It's all human rhythms and polyrhythms and the melodies, and it was just an extraordinary couple of nights.
So let's talk about how it impacted the album. You have a song on the album called Brazil. How it feels to me, this may not be where it came from for you at all, but it's almost like the first half is that idyllic rural experience, but then it builds into something that relies more on the sort of energy and joy you found at Carnival.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. I had this in my head. It's this idea of something that starts off in the day and you're almost like in a field. It's very intimate. And then it goes into the night, and that's the latter part of the song.
Now, am I understanding this correctly, that the song Brazil, you actually thought that different rooms were better for recording the front half and the back half, so it was recorded in two different places?
It was recorded in about 5 different places, I think. Yeah, I mean, within that house, there was definitely, rooms have feels, they have sounds to them. You probably got that from the little documentary when we were talking about, we do the front half of the song in this room, it was quieter, it was deader, and then the live part of the song we do in the back half. Different spaces bring out different things in you as a musician, and different spaces have different sounds as well.
So you come back from this experience and you're carrying with you, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it feels like this experience gave you a sense of joy and discovery around music you maybe didn't even know was out there until you experienced it. Then comes the hard work of trying to take that and make it your own and going off and writing these songs.
Yeah. You have this whole experience at the beginning when you're inspired and the songs are coming out and you're going, where does this come from? I love this. And I found it completely compelling. It felt like a really magical period. And in your head, you can feel the potential of these songs. Then you go into the studio and you start trying to reach the potential of those songs. And that is the hard part. That is the bit where it's like the craft. How do you get to that point that you feel is possible? And that was a bit that took a while. I learned a lot, and it followed a very similar pattern to the Radiohead albums, which start off with a great flourish, and then you get into it, and it gets tough. And that's when I had that experience of having made these Radiohead albums and understanding that this actually was part of the journey. However, for me, I was also like, well, I also had doubts when I was in what I call the sonic trenches, whether I could actually get through this. It was definitely tough. I think that's just a necessary part of the creative journey. And you pull out that, and that's actually, those challenging days are actually when a lot of the character of the record or the depth is forged on it. You have to go there, but it's great when you get out and you finish and you've done it.
You've lived a creative life, basically your entire adult life, but this is a new challenge because this is all you. You have ownership of this one. You did bring in Flood and to act as producer, and my understanding is that one of the key things is that he just gave you some confidence to do the things that were maybe a slightly bit different than things that you'd done before. When you started this project, you weren't even sure that you were going to be the vocalist.
Yeah, absolutely. And he gave me a lot of confidence in that. I mean, first of all, what was lovely about the way we worked together is we became friends literally from the school gates. Our kids were at the same school. Our wives became friends. We holidayed together. And we then ended up working together, making the record together. I always wanted to work with him, but I didn't want to, trouble him. I thought that, this is Flood. And I didn't want to put our friendship on the line, and for him to say, actually, no, I don't want to do it. It was interesting because in the friendship phase, we talk a lot about music, and we realized that we had a very, very similar aesthetic and how we heard music. We talked a lot about the pop music in Britain of the 70s and even 80s that we were big fans of, and as well as dance music. And he's been doing it since like 1980. He's lived through so many different phases of music, and for him to say, yeah, no, he heard something in a vocal on one of the demos, and he said, that's what I want to get to. And I was like, do you think I can do this? And he said, yeah, I've got no doubt. And he wasn't just saying that to make me feel good. He was saying that because I recognized that, because he'd had the experience of working with people like myself who maybe hadn't sung a lot before. And he also saw the way that people developed, and he knew that there was something in my voice that he really liked. So if you've got that, and I knew that it came from a real place, it's just a matter of, okay, just doing it. And some days you can do it, and some days you can't do it. And the thing about music is, or singing rather, it's like a muscle. And the more you do it, the stronger you get, the more you understand the nuances of phrasing and the sound. I mean, for me, that's a big thing, how it sounds, because how it sounds through your headphones or through your ears is quite different to how it can sound coming off tape or whatever, what's been recorded. So that's a learning process. And the only way you're going to get better at that is by doing it.
Our guest today, Radiohead's Ed O'Brien, releasing his first solo project under the name EOB. It is called Earth, and it's out April 17th. The first music that we heard from you is a track that's actually not going to make the record.
Yeah, it was called Santa Teresa. It was kind of meant to be a palate cleanser. It was a track that I really loved, but it didn't feel right on the record. And when Capitol said they wanted something to sort of set the scene, and did I have anything to mind, I was just like, oh, well, there's this track, Santa Teresa, that might be good. And what I liked about it was it wasn't indicative of what the album was like. It was kind of maybe, Radiohead fans would have gone, oh, he's doing his ambient thing. And a few of them did think that. And so I like the surprise element of people expecting one thing and then the album's quite different.
That is going to be a really interesting thing to watch, his reaction to the record. I know that you played that track for one particular audience member that was really important to you before she passed, your grandmother, who recently died at the age of 103. What was her reaction?
My uncle told me the funeral was 2.5 weeks ago, and it was a really lovely moment for the family to come together. And it was a real, when somebody lives to 103, there isn't any sadness that she's gone. There's a life lived, and it was lovely getting all the cousins together. My uncle at one stage pulled me over, and he sort of did a lot of the caring of her, and he said, Betty, I played her Santa Teresa a couple of times, and it was really lovely. She sort of dropped off while it was going on, and my reaction was like, oh dear, was it, she didn't like it that much? But he said, no, she found it really soothing. And, for a grandson, I mean, it's amazing. I'm 51. My granny was 103. It's a lovely thing to be able to do something like that. And your grandmother loves it. It helped her in her final days, that he sort of said. I don't know whether that was true, but it was a lovely moment for her, which is obviously a massive moment for me.
Absolutely. It's really an amazing record. I was telling you before the interview started, I listened to it twice all the way through last night with my wife, and I really want to go back and listen to it again a third time, but this time with headphones. Yeah, it's that kind of record. It's absolutely beautiful, and I hope people will open up their hearts to it again. The name of it is Earth. It's coming out April 17th on Capitol Records. You did 4 dates in the United States just to sort of launch the project, but, fingers crossed, we're hoping you make it our way. I hear there's going to be an American tour to come.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, because I know you're in Kansas, right, John?
Missouri, actually. There's a Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, so the short answer is I'll claim both.
So I know that your Chiefs won the Super Bowl recently, right?
Yes. Boy, you've just redeemed yourself in all kinds of different ways.
Well, our drummer, Alvin Ford Jr., is from New Orleans, and his good friend is the captain, I can't remember his name, is the captain of the defensive team for the Chiefs. They were at school together, and Alvin was obviously over the moon that his friend, and he said his friend is back in New Orleans and is partying hard.
I think maybe Tyrann Mathieu.
Tyrann, is he quite short?
Yeah, he's a smaller guy.
Yeah, that's Tyrann. That's his friend. That's Alvin's friend. He said the guy's only like 5'9", 5'10", but he's
fierce and he's smart, and we're lucky to have him. Yeah. Wow, what a cool connection.
Yeah, congratulations to the Chiefs. It's great to see. I mean, I don't know much about football, but it's great to see from afar another team that, isn't the Patriots winning it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And And of course, we're just all sort of caught up in, how furious that last minute comeback was, how exciting the whole thing was. So.
It's beautiful. I love sport. Sport and music. I love sport and music.
Well, if you happen to be coming through Kansas City in the fall, try and have an off day on a Sunday when they're in town, and we'll do what we can to get you set up with tickets to the game.
I would love that. I've been to several baseball games. I've never been to a football or a basketball game, and I would love to come and see the Chiefs for sure.
Yeah, Arrowhead's a singular experience. It's the loudest stadium in the National Football League. I forget the exact decibel level, but it's louder than a jet engine.
Wow, that sounds great.
It's just been so great. Ed O'Brien, of course, from Radiohead, new album under the name EOB. It's called Earth, April 17th on Capitol. It's just a fabulous, fabulous record. Thanks, Ed, so much for taking the time to visit today.
Thank you for the great questions, John. Thank you so much.